Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to make 10 cards with the July Love From Lizi card kit. For card number 1, I've taken a cream card base and I've got my paper here. I've peeled off all the backing on my tape and I'm using this beautiful textured green handmade paper by Tonic, and it has that lovely gold shimmer effect to it. I'm then got a piece of a black pearlized paper. Just taking my paper off that one, and then I'll center that onto the green panel. This is a fairly straightforward, simple card, but I think that it's very effective in its design. So I've chosen this card apart and I've layered foam tape behind it. I've also gone over the bow with some glossy accents and then some shimmer pen, and it's all about the textures on this card. For card number 2, I'm taking a craft card base and I've got my piece of paper here cut and measured out with the sticky back tape, just taking the last piece off, and you'll see I'm using the nice diagonal black and white stripe. I've left a border around that bottom matting so you can see the craft cardstock. I've then fussy cut along the edge of one of the pages in the book included, and I've popped that up on foam tape. I've then taken this One Fine Day ephemera piece, put some foam tape top and bottom, and then threaded through some of the plain coloured twine, which I'm going to place on top of the fussy cut floral panel. Just working out where I want it to go and making sure I can then attach the twine there in that gap I've left between the foam tape. I'll just make sure I press that firmly into the glue I've put down, and then use my little pokey tool to poke it into place. Trim off that end, it's a little bit long, and then I'll do the same, push it in place. You're going to see that it's, when I turn it over, a little bit loose, but I'm going to fix that in a moment once I have the foam tape attached to my card base. I'll take that little pokey tool and I'm just going to poke it back down inside there. The glue's still wet, so I have no problems with it attaching. So to jazz it up a little bit, I've got these 2 flowers that I've used the flower shaping tool, and I've just run around the underneath side and then pushed them down to give them dimension, and I'm going to glue those to the top right corner. I also have a little tealy coloured heart that I've put glossy accents on. I'm going to use that as my leaves for those 2 flowers. It works really well as a pair of leaves. Once that's attached, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the ephemera piece down there with the sentiment just by going around that edge of the plaque, what may be or would be metal in real life. And that just draws your attention down to the sentiment. I'm going to put a little bit of gloss into the center of my flowers, and then I'm going to go over the top of that large yellow butterfly. And I just find that by putting the glossy accent in a number of places, it just gives that continuity of textures, and I think it's more appealing to the eye if you have it in a couple places. I also am taking the Nouveau clear glitter drop, and I'm just tapping that around the stamens of the flowers there, just to give it a little bit of detail and some sparkle. And I'll do that on all the flowers where you can see a stamens on them. And there's my card, all finished and pretty. For card number 3, I'm going to bring in some of my own cardstock in that tealy blue colour. I'm just showing you now that I've used one of the larger cut aparts, gone over the top with some glossy accents where the sentiment is, and also added some little glitter dots onto the stamens of the flower. I've cut out an aperture in the front of the card piece and popping that up on some foam tape to go over top of that panel. I've also added a little butterfly because I found that on the side of the aperture you could see a little bit of the cutaway card that I'm going to use. So that's why I've added the flower next to the sentiment and popped that little butterfly to the top part to hide what you would otherwise see the gap between the sentiment rectangle and the actual frame I'm using. So I've taken off all my release paper and added a little bit of glue and positioned that over top of the cut apart piece. I've made myself a little flag. I had lots of little scraps laying around from different cards I was making, so I've used this scrap to make a flag. I've also taken some Tonic Studios gold Inca holograph paper. I wanted to add that iridescent feel to it rather than the gold linen effect that came in the kit. I just wanted the gold to be able to pick up the beautiful colours that are reflected in the card. So you can see me just now using my Spellbinders Tool-in-One to add shaping to the flower that I'm going to use as another focal point. This gives the flower so much more dimension and it brings it much more to life. I'm just putting little bits of glue onto the flower where I think it's going to come in contact with the card itself and not all over. So just pushing down again with that tool-in-one to make sure I've got good adhesion. I've then tied myself a little ribbon bow and I'm going to use some glue dots to attach that to the flower. Just position it where I want. Once I'm happy with the size of the bow and its position, I add on this little yellow ticket stub and it says hello. I'm then going to add in my second filigree element that's out of the gold holographic paper. Just positioning that carefully so that I don't cover my butterfly and it stays over the teal blue cardstock. I wanted another little butterfly to balance it off, and the smallest butterfly I could find was actually part of the 3D elements that you could add onto your order. So I've just lifted that butterfly off, removed the foam tape and glued that there. I just think it makes it a little bit more pleasing to the eye and creates that visual triangle. And for card number 4, I'm just showing you how I've given some dimension to the butterflies I'm going to use on this card. So I'm just rubbing the back quite firmly of the butterflies, and I'll just show you one of the butterflies at the moment, but I do this technique to all 3 of the butterflies. And it just helps puff up the wings and gives it a lot more life. And I'm just going over again, I just wanted a little bit more dimension. Rub it down the center and then you get that nice puffy effect. For the card itself, I've chosen the very busy butterfly background and I'm going to use my tape adhesive there and carefully position this over the card base. Now it's going to cover the card completely. I've cut myself a scalloped oval aperture and then lined that with some acetate, which is going to be my main focal point, and it's going to be a shaker element. I've taken some of the washi tape and covered some scraps of cardboard and trimmed that to be the width of what the washi tape normally is. I'm going to line up using my T-square where those pieces are going to go. I've brought in my own sequin mix. I felt that the colours in the ones in the kit were a little too dark for the effect that I wanted. So I've added in this pretty cream mix, and then I've taken out some lime yellow sequins from the new Catherine Pooler sequin mix called Scranton. So I'm just checking if I'm happy with how much filling I'm putting in my shaker, and I felt like I needed some more. So I just added a little bit more in, going around my frame and foam tape with some glue, and I'm going to press that on nice and firm. Sit my blocks on there for a little while till I know it's set. Then I'll come back and just trim those pieces that I've placed there to make them level. I then decided I'd like to see more of that pattern paper on there, so I've created some more of the washi tape strips just onto scrap cardboard, and I'll cut that into a nice neat strip, cut that into the pieces to the length that I want, and you can see there, scrap piece from another kit from Coco and Reno, and I'm going to place that on my card. I just found that this helped the really busy background that I'm using go further into the background, and these spotty strips are more in the foreground. It sort of takes away from how distracting or how busy the background paper is. I do really like that background paper. Now I'm just adding on those butterflies that I've puffed up. The really big one, I did add some foam tape under the wings just to make sure that it did retain its volume, if in case it got squished down. And now I've got my other 3 butterflies. I've put glue along their center, and I'm pressing down inside the center of the butterflies to make sure they're nice and firmly attached to the different parts of the card. I've cut out a thanks sentiment using a white pearl paper. Just attaching that carefully on there. I don't want lots of glue oozing out onto my acetate. Got my sparkle pen here. Always make sure you give them a really good shake before you use them, and also you might find you need to give it a bit of a squeeze to get the ink flowing more readily. So I'll go over all 3 of my butterflies, give them that pretty iridescent sparkle which matches back into that pearlized sparkle that's on the frame of my shaker. And once I'm happy with the glittery sparkle on my butterflies, I'm going to come back with my glossy accent, and that's going to go on all 3 of the centers of my butterflies, and that to me reinforces that sheen that we have on the shaker card as well. And you'll see I've done that visual triangle with the 3 butterflies. And that's that card finished. For card number 5, I'm using these lovely gold peel-offs from Love From Lizi, and I've chosen this striped paper. Now, is it white with black stripes or black with white stripes? I'll let you decide. And I've just gone around all the pieces of paper that I'm going to use on the card with the peel-offs, so that they're ready and you don't have to watch me fuss with them for a while. So I'm just laying this second piece of card across the bottom part of the card. Then I've taken another card apart and I'm popping that up with foam tape, and that's going to be my main focal image of this card. I will go over the sentiment to make that stand out, but at the moment I'm using the faux brads and just trying to work out which colour I like best up in that corner. Using the glossy accents to highlight that pretty butterfly. I'm not squeezing the bottle very hard whenever I use it, because I know that it will come out quite quickly. So that's my tip, is don't squeeze it too much unless you want lots to come out in a very uncontrolled way. So I've just then taken the clear Nouveau glitter drop, gone over the flowers, given them a little bit of sparkle, and then going over the letters in the sentiment with the sparkle pen. Make that shine a little, and there's my card finished. Card number 6. This one is full of different textures. So I've taken this pink wash coloured paper and I've used this 3D embossing folder with the fans, and then I've also taken the black shimmer paper and I've embossed that with a pink and main spot folder. You can see at the top and bottom of this pink paper that I've used a scalloped die to give scallop edges, and I also put my peel off along the top and bottom edge of the scallop, and then I ran it through the embossing machine, or I should say my Sizzix machine, and that just really presses it nice and firmly into the design. I've taken another one of the cutter parts and rounded the corners. I'm then going to use this as a base layer for the images that I'm going to add on. So I've taken this lovely teal flower and I've used the flower shaping tool and given it some dimension. I've chosen this ephemera piece and I've just used glossy accent over the sentiment Happy Day and also on the button, just to pull your attention to that area. Just carefully pressing my flower in. I don't want to flatten any of the shaping. And now just remove the foam tape from my sentiment strip or sentiment piece and place that over top and centered with the card. I'm then going to add 3 other butterflies. I'll glue those on down the center strip there and a little bit on the edges where they're going to touch the paper, and that just makes sure they're nice and firmly attached and won't accidentally get peeled off when pulled out of the envelope. And I made sure my butterflies are heading in a few different directions just to give that illusion of movement around the card. Just using my Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen, giving those butterflies a little bit of sparkle and some glossy accent down their body. And then I realised I hadn't put any sparkle on this butterfly, so I had to be careful not to smudge the glossy accent. And that's that card finished too. For card 7, I'm using a cream-based card, and I've taken a piece of pearlized black paper or card, and I'm just using my corner chomper on the 3/8 setting and rounding the corners on the black layer, and then doing the same to my card base as well. I'm then going to mat the black piece onto my card so that I have a border showing of the card. I've then taken this piece of butterfly paper, which is a scrap from another card, and I'm going to place that on the left hand side. I decided I wanted that to stand out a little more, so I'm chosen to use Lizi's Moon Dust in Gold peel-offs just to separate the pattern paper from the background a bit more. Trimming and always keeping those little pieces because they always do come in handy. Then I've taken 3 of the smaller circle stickers from the sticker book, and I've die cut 3 circles from the black shimmer cardstock and matted those onto the circles and then placed a foam square underneath those. When it comes to placing those circle elements, I always place the first one in the middle, and then I can position the second and third circle element more evenly spaced. I've taken these 2 cutouts from the smaller cutout pieces and just rounded the corners on those two to keep that same look through the card. I've added a brad or faux brad to the right bottom corner. Just putting a little bit of sparkle on the butterfly now. Making sure I haven't missed any. Then I'll go over the sentiment as well. Add a little bit of glossy accent down the center of my butterfly. I'm then going to go over my hello, just so it has a little more texture and will catch the light. I'm then going over top of each of my circle elements there, just making sure I don't have any air bubbles and that I don't have it too thick in any places. And then I don't know if you see me do it on screen, but once I have it all covered, each of the circles, I just give it a very gentle tap to help it level out. I then wanted to add a little bit more embellishment, so I'm using some of the tiny hearts from the sticker book, and I'm just going over top of those with glossy accents. And I only do I do the glossy accent to all three of the hearts. And then you've got that triangle effect again happening with the three hearts, and helps pull your attention over to where the sentiment is. And I tried to do a visual triangle with the yellows in the butterfly and the hearts. Card number 8. So this is a piece of paper that was left from a previous card. And I've just taken some glossy accents prior to using the paper and highlighted the bird and butterflies. I've then used a lawn fawn sentiment strip, which cuts out this thanks sentiment as a border. I'm going to go and add some glue along the letters, but I have used tape everywhere else on there. Position that over the floral paper into the position where I want it. I'm then using some other scrap pieces and cut those into flags, which I'll layer up in the top left corner. I'm taking this 3D nest element that's part of the add-ons for the kit, and I'm going to place that just in the bottom left corner, and that's one of my main focal points then, to help pull your eye across to the thanks. Found a couple little butterflies that I'd missed earlier when I was doing the glossy accents on the background paper. I'm going to add a brad, one of the nice big ones, up to the top corner there on top of my flags or banners. Then to finish off the bottom of the card, I've chosen the light mint green iridescent glitter peel off, and I'm just going to place that along the bottom edge of the tealy green spotted paper. Snip that off, keep that little bit. Now I do go ahead and then glossy accent the thanks just to make it stand out a little more. You'll probably see that in the photos. Card number 9, I'm using this really lovely textured green paper, handmade paper from Tonic Studios. I've cut it so I've got a border on top, bottom and the right hand edge, and then I've taken this beautiful piece that was part of another page in the paper pad and just fussy cut around that. I'm going to glue that onto the left hand side of my card, making sure I've got everything placed exactly where I want it. Now, because that background paper is so very textured, I am having to take extra time to make sure I've got good contact between the two layers. I've then cut myself a cute little doily and cut it in half and I'm going to attach that to the right side of my card. Now again, I'm making sure I've got plenty of glue on there because there's not as many contact points with that raised paper, so I want to make sure I've got good glue coverage and that nothing's going to lift. So now I'm taking one of my butterflies that I have given dimension to, and I'm just working out what direction I want my butterfly, and then I'll press it and hold it in the center to let the glue dry. Now on the fussy cut paper, I glossy accented the yellow butterfly there, so I'm going to do the same finish to the butterfly I've added to the card. And this little sentiment here that I've popped up on foam tape is actually one of the sentiments from the cut apart sheet, but I've used a little label die and cut that out into that fancy shape. I'm then using the white dream drops just to add detail onto those 4 little points. Give it a little tap to make sure they flatten out a little. And then while I had the dream drops there, I thought I might try an experiment. So I squeezed out a little bit of the dream drops and mixed in some water from the water pen I'm using and turned it into this pretty iridescent paint. Now it doesn't necessarily show up that well on camera, but it just adds this beautiful sort of pearlized luster to the flowers where I add it. I did water it down, probably 50 to 50 sort of ratio. Didn't squeeze out a lot of the dream drop, just enough to do the little area I was doing. And there I'm adding it to the flower up the back there too. You can see when it catches the light you get a little bit of a blue iridescent sheen. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll show you how it looks. So just trying to get it to reflect in the light. You can see it's still a little bit wet, but you get a lovely pearlized finished by watering down your dream drop and using it as a paint. For card number 10, I'm using a cream card base, and I'm using this piece of paper that was the top half of a paper I used for an earlier card, and I'm just placing that on top with a small border of the white card showing. I then have this frame that I've cut using some tonic mirror card. I just thought the colour was really pretty and reflected back nicely with the colours in the kit, and I've popped that up on foam tape. I've then taken this piece that was from a previous card, and I've used a Doris embossing folder to give it some texture, and I also went around each of the little dots and just quickly dabbed a little bit of the Nuvo glitter drop on there to give it a bit of sparkle. Then as the centerpiece inside my frame, I've chosen this dimensional sticker. That was one of the add-ons that you could get with the kit. I'm going to add it on there, but I wanted something else. So I went back to the little square cut aparts and found this teal doily. Now I fussy cut around it, then I've trimmed it in half, and I'm going to position my little bird and nest over top of this doily that I've cut and get it in a position that I wanted. I just wanted to add a little bit more layering to the card there. And now I'm just pressing in place that very bottom underlayer of the dimensional sticker. I'm using the Sweet Sentiment that's from the chipboard stickers, and I'm going to just check where it's going to sit. I've popped 2 pieces of foam tape on either end to help support the sentiment or chipboard piece while it goes over that frame. I've then taken another one of the chipboard stickers, which is this stitched looking flower, And you can see the card's pretty monochromatic, but it does have a little touch of yellow that you see on the breast of the little bird. So I've added in a yellow chipboard heart sticker, and then I've gone back to that Catherine Pooler sequin mix and pulled out those lime yellow coloured sequins just to add in. So I've got a nice visual triangle and that yellow colour being emphasised on the card as well. Just going to get my dream drops and put a nice little pearly finish in the centre of my flower chipboard sticker. Give it a bit of a tap, get it to level out a little, and that's my 10th card finished. I hope you've enjoyed all my cards that I've made in this video today. Here's a quick look at 9 of them. I missed putting one of them in the video. See if you can pick which one it was. But there are definitely 10 cards in the video, even though I'm only showing you 9 here. Until next time, thank you for joining me, and thank you very much for subscribing. I hope you're having a lovely day and that you'll come back and visit me again soon. Bye for now and keep crafting.